Welcome to our breakdown of UFC 286, a massive pay-per-view card from London, England this weekend, as Kamaru Usman and Leon Edwards will fight for the third time, deciding the welterweight world champion. Pretty good card top to bottom here. A lot of great talent. Nick, how we feeling? How we feeling going into this massive UFC 286?
Yeah, definitely a good card. We've had some amazing pay-per-views lately. We've been a little bit spoiled. I don't know that this is quite on that level, but there's certainly a lot of spots to attack as far as bets are concerned. And then, yeah, tons of questions surrounding that main event. I mean, Usman was winning most of that fight, but how's he going to bounce back from getting KO'd? Yeah, he's the favorite here once again, but I think a lot more people are taking Leon seriously this time around, especially in front of his home crowd.
Yeah, and we'll dive right in with the main event again at welterweight. Kamaru Usman now a minus 240 to 250 favorite here against Leon Edwards in their third fight. Yeah, as you said, I mean, Usman in the first meeting, or the second meeting rather, the last time these two had fought, we saw Usman winning a majority of the minutes, using his wrestling, staying on Edwards, winning exchanges on the feet, plenty of them. Edwards was getting up a good handful of the takedowns there. Usman went 5 of 12 on his total attempts, but again, using the wrestling to control the fight. It looked like coasting to an easy decision before, obviously, Edwards was able to land. Great combination, put Usman out with that kick. And yeah, I mean, going into this fight, I understand why Usman is still favored. It makes sense people aren't going to be backing him in the method they did in the first fight, especially with other concerns regarding just, his longevity in the sport in general, a hand injury he's been, dealing with in recovery for quite some time, pushing this bout off. But yeah, still one of the best in the world. Still, I think, proved over the first 8 rounds in the cage with Leon Edwards that he is the superior martial artist, and one would expect him to use those tools to his success to, getting a victory here. One of the keys of this Usman title reign has been just, a high level of fight IQ, a high level of, skill in all areas of mixed martial arts. And I think we're going to see him take this fight where he needs to. I'm looking for takedowns again on Edwards, landing 5, 6. And yeah, getting his hand raised, getting the belt back and new. Usman again would be my prediction here.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm going to take Usman. I think he gets it done probably by decision. That being said, though, I'm not nearly as confident I was the first time around. First time around, I had Usman in all my parlays. I had a decent sized bet on the money line. I had him covered everywhere. And yeah, that head kick in the fifth round kind of stole that all away. So this time around, we're getting a much better number. He's floating around 250, minus 250 most books. I think it's a decent number, but at the same time, I'm really not rushing to bet him here. Like you said, the hand injury, but also the knee injuries. He's been dealing with like knee issues for his last few fights. You hear him always talking about his knees. And then, yeah, Leon, I mean, he has amazing confidence now, maybe too much confidence, but in front of his home crowd, sometimes that self belief is enough to really carry you. We did see Leon catch that late kick, but we also got to remember that he did win that first round. He put a lot into that first round, kind of gassed out a little bit. They were at elevation in Salt Lake City. That's not really going to be a factor here this time around. So yeah, I think the cardio is going to be a little bit better for Leon this time. The confidence is a little bit better for Leon this time. But Kamaru this time, he really knows what's on the line. He has a chip on his shoulder. He is the better wrestler still. And I think he just knows he can't really play at range with Leon. And in that fifth round, that's what he did. He was willing to strike at range. It wasn't like he totally took his foot off the gas. He was just kind of in a terrible spot. And I think this time around he knows better. I think we see more clinch work up against the cage. We probably get a pretty boring fight, honestly, if Usman's gonna kind of execute his best game plan here. But he still does average more than 3 takedowns per 15 minutes. I do expect he secures the takedowns that he needs here. And yeah, I mean, Leon, maybe if he's more aggressive, that could play to his detriment. I certainly heard more sharp people on Leon this time around. I heard a stat. It's like when there's an immediate rematch for a title fight, whoever lost their belt the first time, they're only 3-11 in reclaiming that title. We recently saw Amanda Nunes do that, and Izzy has a title fight coming up in the same scenario. But this has not gone good for former champs in the past. So just statistically technically speaking, historically speaking, this isn't a great spot for Usman. But that being said, going into that fight, we kind of saw him as an outlier. People were starting to compare him to George St. Pierre as one of the greatest to ever fight in the division. And I think, yeah, I got to give him the benefit of the doubt one more time, even fighting in the UK here. Still has Trevor Whitman. They've been watching the fight this week. I like everything I've heard in interviews. And yeah, I mean, I'm not going to count Leon out this time like I did last time. Certainly, I did say he was one of the tougher matchups for Usman in the division, but yeah, I think at minus 250, Usman's certainly still the side here. I think he probably gets it done by decision, but this is not the confident pick it was the first time around, and the results are the main reason for that.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair analysis. And yeah, I mean, again, with Usman here, people are selling this as can Leon shock the world again? It was a shock the first time.
Yeah, it was.
He is one of the pound for pound best, and I think it is just hard to go against him in this spot, just given where the odds are at and what we've seen between these two. Yeah, I like Usman this camp. We'll get into the co-main event here next with Justin Gaethje taking on Rafael Fiziev, his teammate. These two training together, hard rounds, going into a camp here on the same card. And yeah, Gaethje Fiziev, this is going to be fireworks in the co-main event. Even if Usman's able to, labor Edwards, make it a boring fight in the main, you are not going to want to miss this co-main event on pay-per-view. Two of the best lightweights in the world. I mean, we've seen what Fiziev's capable of. Incredible striking, just such crisp striking on the outside, great kicks, great Muay Thai. Going up against a guy in Gaethje who's just an absolute brawler, somebody who could scrap, technically scrap. I like a lot of what Gaethje has shown as of late, getting the better of Michael Chandler, not only with more grit, a more solid chin, but also the better technical boxing in that fight. And I think he's going to beat a lot of the guys that aren't ready for these blood and guts type of scraps, and a lot of the guys that are willing to stand and trade with him, such as Fiziev. What we've seen the most recent losses for Gaethje be the likes of Oliveira and Khabib Nurmagomedov, guys who are going to take him down, finish him on the mat. And that's not the style of fight we're getting here. We're getting him as a sizable underdog against another striker in Fiziev who's, going to stand and trade, and not necessarily somebody who, is going to cede much in terms of technical skill to Gaethje, but a bit in terms of power and maybe what he can eat in return. So I think he is going to have a bit more trouble trading kicks with a guy like Gaethje compared to, him going back and forth with Bobby Green, a close split decision on the feet. And yeah, I see this one going Gaethje's way if it was to go to the scorecards. Just, the more technical skill of Fiziev may shine through, but the bigger moments are going to be won by Gaethje here. And I really like his chances as an underdog. I know I've been high on Fiziev. I think he's, the future of this division, one of these guys that's going to be floating inside the top 10. It's just this style of fight is one that you think Gaethje should be able to get his hand raised.
Yeah, I'm on the other side here. I think Fiziev gets it done. The line does feel a little bit wide, so I don't blame anyone at all, yourself included, for taking the dog shot on Gaethje. Certainly faced a better competition, but lately everything we've seen out of Fiziev suggests he should thrive in this type of matchup. The thing about Gaethje, as good as he is as a striker, he absorbs more strikes than he throws. He absorbs nearly 8 strikes per minute, and against a super highly technical striker like Fiziev, former Tiger Muay Thai striking coach, that's just a really difficult spot to be in. If Gaethje were to choose to lead on his wrestling here, I'd probably give him a better chance. I'd certainly line the fight closer, but that is not who Justin Gaethje is. And in the Chandler fight, I mean, Chandler was getting leg kicks off on Gaethje, and I think that is going to be a key for Fiziev here. I think both these guys are want to leg kick as much as they can. But yeah, as far as cardio goes, they seem pretty even to me. Gaethje probably a little bit more power, but I think in terms of defense, Fiziev is excellent. And I think people are kind of looking a little bit too deep into Bobby Green, just because Green is a defense first kind of striker. Like, he's moving backwards a lot of the time, ducking, doing that kind of shoulder roll style, where Gaethje's marching forward, and Fiziev has had success against those types of fighters recently. We saw him catch RDA late in that 5th round. can't take too much from that fight, but it was great to see his cardio last in the fifth. He did kind of fade in that green fight. He looked outstanding against Brad Riddell on the feet, knocked out Moicano. And the thing about Gaethje, yeah, you're right. He's been struggling against grapplers more, but we did see Charles Oliveira drop him. We saw Michael Chandler pretty much drop him. We even saw Tony Ferguson fight, a fight where Gaethje dominated almost the entire fight. He was pretty much knocked down. I don't know if it was scored a knockdown or not in the third or fourth round there, but Gaethje's eating a lot of shots as well. So this is a close fight, but I think when you just look at who these guys are defensively, Gaethje's going to be a little bit too willing to eat shots. He's certainly live for the upset here, and I think the upset path for him is more likely by KO. You say maybe there's more minutes to Gaethje on the feet, but I just think the way these guys fight and how defensively sound Fiziev has been, I think it's more likely than not that Fiziev has more minutes. He's the minute winner here, and I think he's the moment winner as well because Gaethje is going to be there to be countered, and that's the kind of style that Fiziev thrives in the most. But yeah, like you said, I mean, he has faced a tougher competition. That is Gaethje. I don't mind a dog shot at the number, but for me, I think Fiziev gets it done here. I just think his technical ability at this point in his career is better. I think his durability is better, and Gaethje does seem to be on a bit of a downturn, albeit against the top competitors in the division. I just do think Rafael Fiziev is that. So I'm on Fiziev here, and this should be a fight of the year candidate, as all of Gaethje's fights have been lately.
Yeah, it really should be a good one. Gotta agree with you in terms of striking defense. I mean, I hate the way Gaethje dips his head in. The head movement of Fiziev is some of the best in the division. So I think that really could be an X factor here. But yeah, I just see the pressure of Gaethje, the leg kicks, taking away Fiziev's ability to switch stances as often, and just making him a little less technical, making it a one of those classic Justin Gaethje brawls that he's able to get his hand raised. But yeah, that's one of the fights I'm most looking forward to on this card. We'll move on now. Featured bout is at welterweight with Gunnar Nelson taking on Brian Barberena. Pretty interesting fight. I mean, Nelson here, sitting the minus 370 favorite. You got to favor him in this spot. One would think a pretty decisive advantage in the grappling if this were to hit the mat.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we look at the takedown defense for someone like Barberena, 54%, coming off that fight against RDA where he was completely dominated on the mat. He's strung together a few nice wins, but if you go back to that fight against Jason Witt, where he was taken down, I think 4 or 5 times, he's facing a much better grappler here in Nelson. Like, Witt has good takedown entries, but he really doesn't know what to do once he has fighters on the ground, decent top pressure. But just the fact that I'm even comparing Jason Witt to Barberena's opponent here, I mean, that just says all you really need to know. As long as Nelson's careful with his entries, not really the best wrestler, but it's not like Barberena has the defensive ability to keep him off him. And Barberena is taking this fight on relatively short notice. This is kind of closer to Nelson's backyard, certainly, than it is Barberena. So yeah, I'm all over Nelson here. I think he's a good parlay piece. Very live via submission, but that being said, I think I'd rather just kind of parlay him on the money line because of that Takashi Sato fight. Had a lot on Gunnar Nelson getting it done inside the distance, and he just stayed on his back for 3 rounds. I'm hoping he heard that criticism. I'm hoping he goes for the finish here. Barberena, tough kid, really like great fun fighter to watch when he's in a striking battle, but I don't think Nelson's going to give that to him here at all. And that being said, I mean, Nelson, obviously a great grappler. He's actually a decent defensive striker, fights out of the karate stance, kind of floats when he's in the cage. It's going to give Barberena a lot of different looks than he's used to seeing as he's been taking on more traditional boxers lately. So I really like Nelson here. I think he gets it done inside the distance. The one knock on him is that he's been not very active. I don't like that he's not fighting as often as a lot of the other top competitors in this division are, but he's seen the better competition. He's a much better grappler in this matchup, and I think on the feet, he's solid enough that he should be able to close the distance he needs to, work this fight to the mat, possibly get it done inside the distance, but if not, very convincingly via decision.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think the takedown is going to be there. Barberena just over the 54% takedown defense. And yeah, Nelson's ability to control distance on the feet is going to be a key factor. As you said with the karate stance, I feel like Barberena is going to find himself rushing inside. He's a high volume striker, so he's going to be looking to close those gaps, get in on Nelson, and the takedowns should present themselves as these two get into the clinch. I also would not be looking inside the distance here after Nelson's last performance and just his ability to control opponents on the mat. Going to have a grappling advantage over a good chunk of guys in this division, and Barberena is one of them. I think he's live at this number. I mean, he's been super active lately. He's put on a lot of good performances, but yeah, I think Nelson's the pick. Going to be the pick for me going into the weekend here.
Nice.
All right, moving on now. Pretty good scrap at women's flyweight. Undefeated Casey O'Neill now going up against Jennifer Maia. A good test, for most of the girls in this division, coming off a win in her last time out. But I mean, King Casey, her last time out, what a performance. Putting it on Roxanne Modafferi, 230 significant strikes landed out of just shy of 400 thrown. The ability to really put it on an opponent, mix it up, just well-rounded, total, one of these young mixed martial artists that grew up training all the disciplines, well-rounded everywhere. But Casey in this fight against Maia should have the advantage on the feet. Maia had some more like simple boxing style we often see, head hunting a bit, especially at this stage of her career. And I just see Casey being the quicker on the feet and more able to get inside and outside of the pocket, and just avoid the big overhands of Maia that are usually the key to getting her into fights. Here with these more talented or more skilled girls. So I think while Maia is live at this in this fight, I think at odds this close, Casey O'Neill's the pick for me, keeping the streak going and honestly beating some more impressive competition in her most recent winning streak.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of torn on this one, and I'm slightly leaning to Maya here just because I like the plus number on her. So O'Neil, I've been high on. I've bet her every single fight she's been in the UFC, but she's coming off a knee surgery, and she's kind of back a little bit quicker than I think anyone expected her to be, which is a good thing. Like, great, you've recovered quickly, but at the same time, I mean, she's taking that step up in competition, coming off that injury. It's not like she's really taking a tune-up fight here at all. Like, Maya's coming off that great win against Moroz. She clearly lost to Fiorot, but she did better on the feet than I think most people expected her to. Fought pretty close with Chukagian in a similar matchup. And while Casey is good on the feet, I slightly favor Maya in terms of technical boxing ability. I think Casey's path here is actually to grapple if she can. She's averaging just under 3 takedowns per 15 minutes. Maya has just that 55% takedown defense, but if the fight hits the mat, Maya does have decent jiu-jitsu. So it's a tricky matchup in a fight that I kind of consider a coin flip. So if you're going to give me like plus 150, plus 160 on a coin flip, I think I'd rather take the Maya side. Certainly not a confident play. Probably a fight I spend a little bit more time filming and researching. But Casey coming off the injury, really tough matchup against a very smart vet who knows how to win fights. I do slightly prefer Maya as things stand. Also, this is a really big stage for Casey O'Neill here coming off that injury. Wouldn't be shocked to see her kind of adrenaline dump. Still a young fighter, only 25 years old. Roxanne, the best win on her resume was Roxanne's retirement fight. And I think one judge gave that to Roxanne. Not saying it should have been a split decision. Casey clearly won, but she took a ton of damage in that fight. So I don't know. It's a step up in competition. I think a bigger step up than the odds makers are really accounting for, especially coming off that knee injury. I totally get taking O'Neill as the side here. She is the rightful favorite. I do think she should be the favorite. I just think the line's too wide. And I don't know that she can get by on pure athleticism and speed against a vet like Maya. I think it's yet to be seen. So this is a tough matchup, one I'm slightly leaning to the underdog as things stand.
All right. Well, we will see come Saturday on that one. I am firmly on the side of Casey O'Neill there. And opening up the main card, this is a great fight. Middleweight matchup between Marvin Vettori and Roman Dolidze. Vettori sitting the minus 280 favorite at this point of the week, with Dolidze at a plus 230. Again, I think this is one of these scraps where the odds are wider than they should be. Similar to in our co-main event, these are two very skilled, top 10, top 15 of the division. And I think there's a lot of similarities between the games of both. With Marvin Vettori, you kind of know what you're going to get. From fight to fight, he's very steady, always going to be throwing consistent volume, good pressure, forward attack from the southpaw stance. Just not a lot of power. He's a super durable guy. He's someone who can move forward, march you down, throw just as many strikes as you are. But I think it's a lot of just punching without purpose for Marvin Vettori, pushing his punches, where a lot of these middleweights are going to be landing more technically crisp strikes and looking for more damage when it comes to exchanges on the feet. Dolidze is one of those guys. I mean, we saw what he was able to do on the feet, and his striking is improving more and more as he entered the UFC primarily a grappler. And yeah, I think he's going to have the power advantage here against a guy like Vettori. Over the course of 3 rounds, anything could happen on the feet. I would favor Vettori winning more minutes. But that all being said, Dolidze should be able to keep it competitive there and also mix it up just fine on the mat. While Vettori has 74% takedown defense, we have seen him, underneath some all-time shots before, and I think Dolidze could threaten him in quite a few positions there. I don't see a finish by either man in this spot, but I could certainly see him sealing a good chunk of this fight, dragging Vettori to the mat or getting an opportune takedown on an opponent moving forward. Again, I think it's super close. I would favor Vettori still, but my pick here is Dolidze just because of how wide these odds are. In a 5-round fight, I could see Vettori sitting at -280, -300. I just think that's out of hand here against a red hot Roman Dolidze.
Yeah, I'm on the Vettori side here. I think he gets it done. I'd be kind of surprised if Dolidze pulls it off. I mean, that Hermanson fight, Hermanson made a terrible mistake playing on the ground with Dolidze, really went into a position that he thought he could get out of and was schooled for it. But prior to that, I'm really not all that impressed by any of Dolidze's wins. He has the win over Dawkins cut from the roster, Staropoli cut from the roster, a loss to a undersized Trevin Giles, and then he beat Phil Hawes via KO, who everyone KOs. Vettori, he's been fighting the champ. I mean, was just in there with Whitaker, was completely schooled on the feet, went to Thailand, been training Muay Thai, definitely improving his striking as it's been the biggest hole in his game. And even going into this fight without all that extra training he's been doing in his striking, Vettori lands more than 2 significant strikes per minute. I think he's the better wrestler here. Dolidze is certainly the better jiu-jitsu player, but I think Vettori is going to be too strong for him. I don't think Dolidze is going to find the spots he wants. I think Vettori can mostly keep this on the feet, kind of pick him apart at range, out-volume him, outland him like we saw Vettori do against Hermanson in that fight, or in the Costa fight where he ate a ton of huge strikes. I will say this, I think if either guy wins via finish, Dolidze is more likely. That's kind of his one win condition here. But I just see Vettori as the better minute winner. He's got a chip on his shoulder coming off that Whitaker fight. I think he certainly corrected some of the holes in his striking game against one of the best strikers in the division. And Dolidze, he's kind of been one of these guys that just, I don't know. I don't want to say he's been lucky, but I think this is just a little bit too much too soon. He just shot up through the rankings. Vettori himself said he was surprised Dolidze took this fight. These guys used to train together at Extreme Couture. Vettori seems supremely confident. I've heard a few other people from that camp say that they're pretty confident in Vettori here. Dolidze always has that nuclear option, though. He does have the better power in this matchup. He's certainly the better submission grappler in this matchup. But as far as minute winning goes, in a fight I do expect goes to decision, I'm going to favor Vettori. Vettori, close to 80% takedown defense, has never been submitted before. And like I said, I think this fight mostly takes place on the feet. And Vettori, who's hung in there at times with Adesanya, won a fight over Paulo Costa, looks good on the feet against a bunch of people who I rate better strikers than Roman Dolidze. I have to go with Vettori here. And yeah, the line's getting a little bit wide, but I don't think it's totally out of hand like a few of the other ones on this card are. So I'm all over Vettori here. I think he gets it done. As long as it stays under 300, I'll probably time into a couple parlays.
And I just think 300's crazy, just the streak he's been on. And
Right,
these Georgians, man, you keep sleeping. That's okay. That is just fine. We'll take a look at the preliminary portion of the card now. So the prelims begin 3 p.m. The main card starts 5 p.m. This Saturday, Eastern time. Again, live from London. Jack Shore in the O2 Arena facing Makwan Amirkhani in the featured preliminary bout. Shore a -500 favorite, prohibitive favorite. Coming off a loss his last time out, first career loss against Ricky Simone. But I mean, yeah, this draw against Makwan Amirkhani should be one where he wins. Makwan has lost 4 of his last 5 appearances. Really been the tale of his career, somebody who has a good round and then really falls off quickly thereafter, somebody who's always a threat to land an early submission or rarely put together the strikes for a impressive highlight reel knockout. But aside from that, not a fighter that you could really trust in terms of durability over the course of 15 minutes. Jack Shore, somebody far more well-rounded, somebody who has 80% takedown defense, and you know, if he wants to keep it on the feet for the first 5 minutes of this bout, I think he should be more than capable. He also should be more than capable of fighting out of a lot of the submissions that Makwan has. You know, a very good jujitsu practitioner, but somebody who does often rely on the same, you know, a few submissions when it comes to mixed martial arts fights, something a athlete like Shore should be able to study up and prepare defense for. So I like Shore. I don't know if I'm going to be getting too involved at a minus 500 here in this spot, but yeah, I think he survives the first round and should be able to get the win here against Amirkhani.
Yeah, the one thing you didn't mention was that Short is moving up a weight class here, but I actually think that probably plays to his benefit. I don't think he liked that he got kind of ragdolled by Ricky Simone his last time out, so it's kind of a bit of a reactionary move up, but he said he's been struggling with the weight cut, so I do think this is the spot for him at 145. Like you said, I mean, Makwan, very easier fighter to read. He's live for that submission early. If he doesn't get it, he gasses out. He has a terrible gas tank. We've seen it time and time again. And Shore, like you said, good submission defense. I don't think he's going to get caught in anything here. And after that, it's kind of his fight to win or lose. I mean, he should be able to pick Amirkhani apart at range. He should be able to take him down. Amirkhani doesn't really defend takedowns because he's so content to play on the ground. 38% takedown defense, one of the worst rates in the division. So I see Shore grounding him whenever he needs to. He should win the striking exchanges as well. So as long as he doesn't kind of rush in, adrenaline dump early, get caught in like a guillotine or something, like we saw Mike Grundy do against Amirkhani in the O2 arena, which is where this fight's taking place, then I think Jack Shore should cruise here. I mean, the line is wide, but at the same time, I mean, I don't know. If you're taking Amirkhani, his one path is really that early submission. And yeah, I just think Jack Shore, he's going to get right back into the win column in the proper division, not cutting as much weight. He should feel very comfortable here. I think he gets it done convincingly.
Yeah, I mean, just slightly smaller than Amirkhani, but I really don't see that being a factor, especially if these two
Yeah.
are going to be engaging on the mat. So, yeah, I feel like Shore should be a safe bet here. Moving on now, this a lightweight scrap and a pick'em fight between Omar Morales and Chris Duncan. This is one where I'm not very certain at this point in the week. You know, I think Duncan's the more explosive fighter, the more of a threat to finish this fight, but Omar Morales, the bit more well-rounded. I don't really see much special in his game. If you have a stronger read on this bout, I could let you go ahead and give us a rundown of your thoughts here.
Yeah, I mean, both these guys are live for the KO. Or Morales has proven to be pretty chinny, which has kind of been his downfall. Like he was a highly regarded prospect for a while before he started getting KO'd. But the thing about Duncan is defensively, he's terrible. I mean, he had that amazing comeback win over Charlie Campbell on Contender Series, a fight many thought he was finished and the fight was over. I think other refs may have called that fight in that spot, but good on Duncan for recovering and then getting the KO of his own. But yeah, I mean, he eats nearly 8 significant strikes per minute. Morales, pretty good defensively until he does get caught. I don't rate either of these guys' chins, so it's kind of like glass cannon against glass cannon. I will say Duncan probably has a little bit more power, but I don't think it's enough really to put Morales out here. Morales also has pretty good BJJ that he could fall back on if he needs to. I think he's a black belt. He was a brown belt a couple fights ago when we wrote him up, but yeah, just trying to look into this here. But yeah, I think he's the more well-rounded fighter. He has the UFC experience. This is the biggest stage Duncan's ever been on. I don't know. It's a close line. I just think there's a little bit more value on Morales here, who we've seen beat guys like Shane Young. He's gone the distance with Giga Chikadze. Won a decision against Gabriel Benitez. Just some pretty solid results. And I mean, yeah, he got KO'd by Medic in a fight where he decided to play with fire in the pocket. So in a matchup where that's probably the one way he loses, I like that he's coming off that similar loss. I think he knows what he needs to do here. Just stay safe. He's going to be the better minute winner. So I like Morales here. I am a little bit leery of his chin. Like that's the one thing that's preventing me from putting a big bet on him here. But yeah, I think Morales gets it done. I think Duncan's fun, but I mean his defense is terrible, and we've seen him KO'd a couple times before. I mean once officially, and then once in the fight he won last time out, he was pretty much KO'd and then woken up before he secured that knockout. So I don't know. I think Duncan's fun here. The crowd's going to be behind him, but Morales is just the better technical striker, the better grappler, more dangerous on the mat. I think he gets it done as long as he stays safe. So Morales is my play.
Yeah, Duncan is fun, and it is pick'em, and I think I do like him. I mean, it's just
What's the
Morales.
unders here are good?
Yeah, I could see the under here. Morales, if he is getting it though, as you said, the better minute winner. I see it being a decision. And Duncan, while the defense isn't great, he at least has a bit of a chin. And he's eating these shots, but he's eating a lot of clean ones too, and still staying in there. I think he is the more fun. I think it could be a bit of a favorable draw against a guy that was finished his last two bouts and who has lost three of his last four. So I'm still torn on this one. You will want to check out our write up on Dine Sports come Saturday morning. But right now, the pick may be Duncan for me. Just expecting him to find that knockout. Very close fight though. Should be a good one at lightweight. Yep, moving on now. Another fight at 155 pounds. Sam Patterson facing Yanal Ashmos. 6-0 against pretty mid-level competition, not the best showings thus far. Watching back the tape, he's been getting hit quite a lot. I'm really not a fan of his defensive awareness on the feet, but this guy's a brawler. This guy is somebody who can go in there, really scrap, throws wild looping overhands, but can mix it up a bit too. Does well in the clinch, does well in pressure situations against the cage, and this is going to be a funny matchup. I mean, this guy's standing 5'9", going against one of the bigger lightweights you're going to see in Sam Patterson, a prospect who, is long, good weapons on the feet, pretty crisp striking overall, and a 9-inch reach advantage in this particular matchup. So it's going to be interesting to see these two on the feet. How Ashmos elects to, close distance with it. Will it be with big overhands as we've seen in some of his previous appearances? One would lead that to believe that he gets caught by the more technically skilled Patterson. But Patterson's also well-rounded, able to, mix it up, threaten with submissions when, fights get into favorable positions for him. And I think he has all the tools of somebody to go out there and keep Ashmos at the end of his jab, at the end of his long-range weapons, and perhaps find a finish if he's advancing too much. But seems like a solid prospect. Seems like the pick to get the win here.
Yeah, I like Patterson too. I want to spend a little bit more time digging into Ashmov's. I don't know. The thing about Patterson, he's super athletic, really good striker at range. Offensively, he has pretty nice chokes, good guillotine. We've seen him hit a few times before. He's going to be the more explosive fighter here. It feels like they're kind of setting him up to win, but at the same time, like defensively, he's pretty terrible. He really puts his chin up in the air. I don't think Ashmaz really has the power to take advantage. He does have a few wins though by KO. So at such a wide line, I'm a little bit hesitant to play the favorite. I do think he's the better fighter in this matchup. I think he has more ways to get this done, especially if he chooses to grapple. But yeah, that being said, I mean, with such a wide reach, I expect he's going to be content to stand and trade. And if he's a little bit chinny, as it seems he might be, then maybe Ashmaz can take advantage here. So I like Patterson. I think he gets it done, but I would much prefer he grapple here. And I'm going to spend a little bit more time researching this one, but for now I'm with you on the favorite. I do think he's the more talented fighter, the more gifted athletically. And yeah, he's UK prospect debuting in front of his home crowd. It seems like they really want to build him up in this spot. I did like what he showed on Contender Series, but again, that defense, just certain matchups are going to be really tough for him. I just don't know that Ashmaz is the one to kind of capitalize on that. So I'll spend a little bit more time digging, see if I can maybe take a dog shot. But as things stand, I'm certainly on the favorite here. I do think he's the more gifted fighter, definitely the bigger fighter for the weight class, and the much better grappler. I really hope he just decides to hit takedowns and grind this one out on the mat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems like a clear path to victory if he does. If he is able to lock something in, especially with that reach advantage. Could help syncing up another choke. All right, and now at flyweight, a matchup between Muhammad Makayev and Jafel Filho. I could let you get started on this one. Makayev, your guy. Should be a good win here.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy the fights that Makayev takes. It's always these guys debuting that are underrated. None of them are ranked. They're always better than the line suggests. But I do think Makaev gets it done here. He's going to be the much better wrestler. You hear in interviews him talking about how he really took Malcolm Gordon lightly. A fight he was winning, but a fight he did get caught in a couple rough positions in. So I do like to hear that from him against Phil Ho, who is a pretty good submission grappler. Phil Ho, very athletic, pretty explosive, but definitely going to try to kind of stand and trade. And I don't think that opportunity is going to be here for him. This is a guy who looked decent on the Contender Series, took a lot of damage before he won via KO. Fought out of decent regional promotions, talking Shooto Brazil primarily. But yeah, I mean, it's just not the level of competition that Makaev's been seeing. Again, this is a British prospect in front of the British crowd. It's pretty obvious what the UFC is trying to do here. But yeah, I mean, the line is getting a little bit out of hand. We're looking at minus 800, minus 900 some books, but Makaev is very clearly the side. I mean, there's really not all that much that needs to be discussed. It stinks that they're not giving him other ranked fighters. I get that a lot of the ranked fighters don't want to fight this kid, but at the same time, it's really tough for him to advance his career when he's just taking in these really tough guys that are making their debuts. And we saw that against Charles Johnson. And we're seeing that again here against Phil, who I actually do think is a decent prospect. But yeah, I mean, we call him a prospect. He's a few years older than Makaev. Pretty dangerous on the mat, but not dangerous enough that I think he's going to be able to capitalize on Makaev making any sort of mistake. I really like where Makaev's headspace is. I will say this, though. Makaev's been dealing with a shoulder injury. It seems he's 100% healed. He's been training out of Tiger Muay Thai, getting good rounds in with a lot of tough, I don't know, bodies, for lack of a better word, up there. But yeah, this just feels like a clear matchup that he is set up to win. He wants to turn around quickly here. It sounds like fight in the next few months, hopefully get 2 or 3 more fights in this year. And yeah, this feels like a spot he should be able to get done pretty convincingly. Phil Ho's no joke. I think the line's a little bit ridiculous. Don't really feel super comfortable laying this type of chalk on Makaev, but he's given us no reason not to this point in his career. I think he gets it done pretty convincingly, probably inside the distance. But at the same time, I don't know if I'm rushing to bet that. So yeah, I like Makaev here. It's just really tough to find an angle that I want to bet him on.
I'm not sure the odds inside the distance. Perhaps KO could be a look, though. I view Phil Ho as a grappler first.
Yeah.
He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt under Carlson Gracie. Really good setting up shots, getting fights to the mat, controlling on the mat. And that's just not a recipe for success against a grappler as high level as Makaev. And what we've seen out of Makaev on the feet, I mean, his striking's great. His kicks are great. He gets him up high. He attacks the body. He should have the advantage here, especially with his quickness and, his length on the feet going up against Phil Ho. I really see him, picking him apart there and, doing just fine defending if Phil Ho's the one shooting or trying to get this into any sort of exchange on the mat. So, yeah, I do like Makaev. I think I do like him inside. Phil Ho seems like a legit prospect, but again, it's just jiu-jitsu is not going to work, trying to catch Makaev in something here. You aren't going to pull guard, trying to get an arm, nothing like that. You aren't going to take him down and be the one controlling those exchanges on top. So, yeah, I think Makaev's the play. I think he wins again here in London. All right, moving on, the early prelims, card kicking off 1 p.m. The last early prelim is this featherweight scrap with Lerone Murphy taking on Gabriel Santos. Murphy was originally slated to fight Nathaniel Wood on this card here in London, but now instead it's going to be Santos, an undefeated prospect, and somebody getting some respect here at the betting window this week, a plus 155 making his debut here against Lerone Murphy. I like Murphy a lot. I think Santos is great, talented on the feet, very dangerous striker. I just think the more polished UFC athlete with a full fight camp, undefeated in the octagon, should have the advantages here, to win this fight. Murphy, as needed, is able to mix it up, but should primarily be striking here with Santos. And while Santos is dangerous, Lerone Murphy has solid striking defense. We have seen him absorbing some shots in a bit of his earlier UFC career, but he has crisped up and also looks much better offensively than Santos when it comes to the latter half of fights. Somebody who conserves his energy well and, fights with a steady pace throughout the course of a 15-minute bout. Nothing crazy in terms of volume, but I think the more measured approach from Murphy, the cleaner, the more technical strikes on the feet, are going to be what edges him out this win. And yeah, I mean, Santos is dangerous. I think he does have certainly a good chance at winning in this spot. I just think with these odds, Murphy seems like the correct play against an opponent making their short notice debut.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm on Murphy here. The thing about Santos, though, is like you said, he is actually a really good prospect. Fighting out of LFA primarily lately. He did win the featherweight title via tournament, and I think he only had one fight in that tournament. Actually, no, he fought twice. But yeah, he's looked really good, winning fights via finish on the feet, but he does take a lot of damage in exchanges. And like you mentioned about Murphy, I mean, he's really shored up that striking defense, now absorbing less than 2 significant strikes per minute. I think that's going to be the key for him here. He's had a full camp for Nathaniel Wood, who's a really tough opponent. He's going to be fighting in front of his home crowd. He's going to have the reach advantage, very sound defensively. Santos flying in from Brazil on short notice, which is not proven to be great for many, especially on short notice. Going to be dealing with some jet lag and things like that. But Santos is going to be dangerous early. I will say that. It's just we've never really seen Murphy close to being put out. I think he's going to be fine here. And as Santos kind of really comes out firing, I think he's going to start to fade probably late in that first into the second round. He showed decent cardio before, but in a spot like this, it's just too much too soon, in my opinion. I think on a full he'd probably be live, and I think the line here would be accurate, with him being like around a plus 130, plus 140 underdog. Like it should be a close fight. But given the kind of intangibles where we're talking about Murphy on a full camp for Nathaniel Wood, a really tough opponent, fighting in his own backyard, with the reach advantage, and Santos having to travel in on short notice, I just think Murphy's the side here. He has the much better resume. Santos definitely one of the better resumes for a debutant, especially one that hasn't had to come through Contender Series. But yeah, he's getting in because he's taking this fight on short notice. Murphy should get it done, and I really like the price on the money line as long as it's staying under minus 200. I'm probably going to take a shot or two on Murphy here for sure.
Yeah, and line continuing to close. I think I saw 200 this morning, now at minus 180. So you could get an even better price in Murphy, later in the week or by the time this card begins come Saturday. So yeah, I'm with you here. I like Lerone Murphy to get the win. Moving on next at middleweight, Christian Leroy Duncan taking on Dusko Todorovic. This is a debut for Duncan, and I'm all over him here. I think this is a good spot. I think minus 210 here for Duncan is going to be the play for me. He's an explosive. He's a big middleweight. He's got great striking, sick knockouts on this recent streak he's been on. I really like his footwork. I think he's the more fluid striker than Todorovic, and yeah, I think Todorovic's best wins. He's moving forward. He's using his pressure to get in the face of his opponent's strike, and Duncan isn't going to allow that. He's going to use his superior footwork to control this fight and win those striking exchanges against Todorovic. And yeah, well, Dusko's tough. I really haven't seen that much great out of him. I mean, it's alternating wins of losses in the UFC, and not really the highest level opponents that he's beating. Jordan Wright no longer on the roster, Maki Pitolo. So I really don't rate him super highly, and I think this is a good fight for Duncan to draw into. Somebody who should be able to expose on the feed, and I think getting just better than plus money on the KO at current, if you were to look that way, but certainly live to win this fight if it were to go to decision as well. Just looking better over 15 minutes than Dusko's able.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. And there are two Chris Duncans on this card. This is Christian Leroy Duncan. He's the much better of the two. So anyone listening, don't get that mixed up. So Dusko's one path here would probably be to wrestle. Christian Leroy, outstanding striker, really dangerous on the feet, really good understanding of range and footwork. We've seen him coming off those 3 KOs, like you said. He's been fighting for Cage Warriors for a while. Quality wins over guys like Will Curry. I really, really like him here. I think he gets it done. Dusko's one path would be to wrestle, though, because Duncan doesn't look great when he's on his back. He does kind of struggle to get up. But the thing is, Dusko is one of the worst takedown accuracy rates in the UFC at 12%, averaging less than 1 takedown per 15 minutes. I don't think he's going to be able to ground him here. And once he's frustrated in that situation, I think Duncan probably picks him apart at range. Dusko eating nearly 5 significant strikes per minute. We've seen him KO'd plenty of times before. I just think this is a tough spot for him. And yeah, this is Leroy Duncan's backyard. This is an area he's been fighting his entire life. Gonna have the crowd behind him for sure. Really, really solid prospect. Only 27 years old. I expect we continue to see improvements in all facets of his game, especially that grappling. But against Dusko, yeah, there is a path for Dusko here, but I just don't think he has the wrestling really to take advantage of it. Leroy Duncan should cruise, and I like the KO shot you're talking about around even money. I think that's a really good price. Could also see playing him to get it done by decision, just playing the money line around minus 200. But I mean, for all that value, we've seen the Dusko KO'd a bunch, and this feels like the type of spot where we could see it again. So I'm on Christian Leroy Duncan here to get it done, probably inside the distance. Just don't think Dusko's really going to be able to get that wrestling off. And to me, that's his one true path. I don't think he's going to be able to hang on the feet here, technically speaking, at all.
Let's go. I love to hear it. Love to hear same side on that one pretty confidently. Um, Moving on. Next at flyweight, Jake Hadley, sizable favorite here, going up against Malcolm Gordon, dangerous opponent. A pretty good scrap, honestly. These two, Hadley at flyweight, primarily a guy who likes to grapple, get into it on the mat. But great striking. I mean, you'll see him have the advantage over Malcolm Gordon on the feet in this spot. Gordon, somebody who's not the most durable. We have seen some improvements in his overall awareness on the feet, but somebody one would think Hadley should be able to beat in those exchanges there and counter well on the mat. Well, I believe Gordon's going to be the one shooting in this fight, looking for submissions of his own, and it'll be up to Hadley to, responsibly defend and counter Gordon when they are in those positions. I could see Hadley spending a large majority of this fight on top, rolling with Gordon on the mat. But honestly, as I was stating, on the feet, we should see him get the better work in and, take advantage of Gordon, whether it be just his inability to flow on the feet as Hadley is able, or dealing with those kicks of Hadley that I also think are going to be a key factor in deciding this one. So I understand why he's a sizable favorite. I maybe getting involved in him here. It's just Gordon at plus 300 seems a little off. Just given his chance to, catch an armbar or catch someone on something on Hadley, who we have seen, take a loss as of late.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Hadley's aside. He should get it done here, but I do think the line is getting completely out of hand. We saw Makayev in this same matchup as a massive, massive favorite. He admittedly said he kind of overlooked Gordon, but Gordon had him in a really nice body triangle. He actually swept him on the mat in a tough wrestling exchange, and Makayev probably took his foot off the gas. But just seeing those things coming into a fight against a pretty good wrestler in Hadley, but not sure I rate him as highly as Makayev in terms of the wrestling, it just gives me some pause. So I think Hadley's going to be much better on the feet here. Gordon's greatest weakness is certainly that chin and durability. I think if they're going to strike at range, Gordon probably gets caught, probably KO'd. But yeah, I expect Hadley to shoot for takedowns here. Gordon, mostly because of that Makayev fight, has a 9% takedown defense. So I was saying that, yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's one of the worst numbers I think I've ever seen, and a lot of that is because of Makayev. But yeah, this just feels like a fight where Hadley should get it done. But we've seen Gordon pull it off as a massive underdog before. He was a heavy underdog against Dennis Bonder in that fight. Bonder got hurt, but at the same time, just laying such big juice on a fighter in Hadley, who I do rate pretty highly, but also I don't know. He just seems a little inconsistent. I mean, Nascimento's a tough opponent, but he just looked terrible in that spot. His Contender Series fight, where he caught what's his name, Mitch Raposo in that submission, it took him a little while to get going. So I don't know. I like Hadley here. I think he gets it done. I think he probably gets it done inside the distance. But to lay such a wide just to lay that much juice though just does not feel great. I'll probably just pass. But I do think Hadley gets it done, probably convincingly. It's just the line's gotten out of hand, and it's going to continue to get wider as people tie him into parlays.
Yeah, and the Natsumoto loss was the one I was thinking that was giving me some pause on Hadley as well, just because yeah, exactly. If this is a similar style fight, if there are positions on the mat, Gordon's able to get on top, get control. Yeah, you're going to be sweating with a minus 400 ticket in your pocket. So yeah, I'm probably not really going to be getting too involved just because I view Gordon live, as it seems you do too.
Yep.
we'll move on now. This woman's flyweight bout between Joanne Wood and Luana Carolina. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, so this one's tough. I definitely think Joanne was the more talented fighter, but you have to wonder if her head's in it. She's been talking about retirement. It seems she might have gotten cut after that Grasso loss, but then when you look at her last three losses, they're all against opponents who've gone on to challenge for the title. And Grasso's now the champ, so that last loss really doesn't look so bad. For me, I'm on Wood here, but really not with much confidence. We saw Luana Carolina on this same stage in the O2 Arena get brutally KO'd by Molly McCann. I think it's kind of cruel that they're even bringing her back to fight here. But at the same time, I mean, she is going to be the more aggressive fighter. She is younger, definitely more athletic at this point in her career. But yeah, she really hasn't had much success against top level competition. I mean, she had that win over Lupita, but that was a fight where Lupita Godinez was moving up in weight. And yeah, I think Wood should be strong enough here to keep this at striking range and get it done. But I really don't want to lay any juice on her, just knowing she has 1 foot out the door. Trains at Syndicate with her husband John Wood, and yeah, it's just never great to want to back a fighter who seems like they may be retiring. I think if she loses here, she takes off her gloves in the middle of the O2. I think if she wins here, she maybe keeps it going, but I wouldn't be surprised if she retired then. And I mean, when's the last time we saw a fighter in a retirement fight secure the win? So I really don't rate Luana Carolina. If this was like 3 years ago, I think Joanne Wood should be like minus 500. But just knowing that these are two fighters kind of headed in different directions, I really can't feel great about laying any juice on Joanne Wood. So she's my pick right now. But this is probably a pass for me. It just feels like a very toxic fight to be betting on either side.
Yeah, not super high level, not one I'm going to be very involved in. I do like Wood. I think we saw Carolina losing positions in the clinch in a few fights, including it here against Molly McCann in the past. I think Wood thrives in those positions, great knees, pretty good clinch work overall, and just a higher volume of strikes than what Carolina often throws. Should be able to win a decision if she is throwing the higher volume than her opponent, and perhaps mixing in a takedown or two as well. So I side with you. I think Wood's probably going to be the pick for me. But yeah, not really excited in putting any money on a matchup like this. So going to be hitting a pass here. 15 fight card, March Madness, not a problem for me. Skipping that one. May skip this one too. The lightweight matchup with Ludovic Klein facing Jai Herbert. This one I've been having some trouble with. I mean, Klein feels like the lean for me here in the early week. I think he's the more technically sound striker. I just worry about him against the length of a guy like Herbert, somebody who has good power, who uses his length well, and he's been fighting smarter as of late. Last time out, got the big hometown win here. Could be due for a bit of regression, but I think against a guy like Klein, he is very live, utilizing his boxing, that kickboxing, going up against a striker who should be content to stand and bang with him on the feet. I just think, Klein over the course of 15 minutes would have the more consistent output. I think he is going to land the wider variety of strikes. Probably has more opportunities to hurt Herbert, while Herbert has the better chance at landing the one punch that would end this fight. Again, good boxing, really crisp hands, and I think also really good early in the fight. We've seen Klein fade on one or two occasions in the past, but I do think Herbert could have his best round in the first, which makes me a bit hesitant to back Klein as the slight favorite here. But I do think Ludovic's the lean for me. I think just overall, in a fight that's going to be contested on the feet, I'll take him and his overall kickboxing over, the striking at Jai Herbert.
Yeah, I'm with you. The reach is a little bit of a concern for Klein, but I do think he's just a better fighter everywhere here. I totally agree that Herbert's going to be dangerous early. We saw that in the Ilya Topuria fight, almost won that as a huge underdog. That would have been ridiculous. But yeah, Jai, the thing with him is he almost always looks great early. We saw it against Ronaldo, but then he starts to fade and then he's very chinny. And I think in a matchup like this, that's probably going to be troublesome against the fighter in Klein. If we're comparing their striking stats, and they both have enough fights where these actually mean something, Klein lands more than one significant strike per minute, more than 15% accurate in difference. So Herbert lands 41% of the strikes he throws. Klein lands 56. In terms of absorbing strikes, Herbert only defends 42% of the strikes thrown against him, where Klein defends 48. So on the feet, I do see Klein as the better technical striker. Like you said, Herbert's going to be dangerous early, certainly with that range. He does have some power. But the other factor here, and the reason I'm probably going to get to the betting window with Klein, is because he has the grappling advantage here as well. Herbert only has a 55% takedown defense in the UFC. We saw Klein grappling really well against Mason Jones, both offensively and defensively. Looked really good in the clinch, much better than I think anyone expected him to. And I think here, if he needs to, if he does get caught or if he is falling behind on the strikes at any point, he can lean on that grappling against a tall fighter in Herbert who just really doesn't have great takedown defense. So Herbert's going to be live early for that upset, likely via KO if he does get it done. But Klein, I think every other way, it's kind of his path to victory. I think he's the better grappler. He's an underrated submission grappler. I think he can get the takedowns that he needs if he has to. And I think as the fight wears on, he's going to be the better technical striker. He's going to start to land more combinations and get more off on Herbert. So yeah, a little bit scary. Maybe a live betting situation. Like maybe you just kind of wait if you have a book where you could bet the line live. Wait and bet Klein after that first round once Herbert kind of starts to fade, because he is very, very dangerous early. Or if you make a big play on Ludovic Klein, you can kind of hedge it with the Jai Herbert round 1 KO, something like that. But yeah, I think Jai's dangerous early, but after that, this feels like Klein's fight to win or lose, and I think he gets it done here. I hope he mixes in the grappling. It'll make it a lot easier. But if he doesn't, I do see him as the better technical striker, both offensively and defensively.
Yeah, and you may have convinced me to get some action on this fight. Yeah, he certainly could grapple. We've seen Herbert really doesn't have an answer to a grappler facing him. I just don't know if that's going to be the approach Klein takes in this matchup. So that's why I'm still just a bit hesitant to pull the trigger. But yeah, I think he's going to be the side. And then lastly, one more fight to break down. The opener at women's flyweight, Juliana Miller facing Veronica Hardy, formerly Veronica Macedo. Here, the plus 350 underdog facing Juliana Miller. Just 4-1 as a professional, but man, Juliana Miller looks like the complete package. Still very early in her career. Putting it together. Excellent jujitsu, an elite grappler from 10th Planet, and we've seen what she's capable of on the mat. But now really mixing it in with her striking, with great aggression. Not the best striking defense thus far, but I think her jiu-jitsu is going to be the factor in getting a lot of wins against lower level opponents such as Hardy. I mean, this is an opponent who has just 46% takedown defense over the course of her UFC career, and was 1-4 in her UFC appearances before now a 3-year layoff that she's returning from. So while she certainly could have made improvements over that duration of time, I think she's facing a young opponent here that has proven to be skilled in all areas and should have the advantage when this fight does hit the mat. I think Miller's going to be looking for takedowns in this spot. We've seen her land on average more than a takedown per round. In this recent run on the Ultimate Fighter and in the UFC. So I like Miller here. Now these odds are crazy. We should have learned our lesson with the card 2 weeks. The most recent pay-per-view, Valentina, JJ Aldrich, Valentina.
And Valentina, yeah, that one too.
You can't be laying money like this on these women's MMA fights. Just such a volatile spot. I do think Miller is the superior fighter, though. I think she's going to be getting the win here.
Yeah, so I'm with you. I think Miller gets it done probably by submission, but there's a few things I got to poke holes in what you're saying. So she's not well rounded. She's a terrible striker. She is awful on the feet. She's only defending 37% of the strikes thrown against her, and these are stats coming from the Ultimate Fighter house, where she's fighting terrible competition. So
striking defense is bad.
Terrible. And offensively, she doesn't do much either. The one thing she does well is use her strikes to set up takedown entries where she can get those body locks and take the fight to the mat. If Hardy can keep it standing here, she's going to be live for the upset. I don't think she's going to be able to. And the main reason isn't necessarily skill as much as it is size. Like, Hardy's very small for the division. I think she'd probably be fighting at 115. This is a fight, or are they taking it? 125? Yeah, at 125. Miller should get it done. The UFC wants to build her. Hardy's probably only getting this shot here because it feels like a spot where they can set Miller up for a win. But if this fight stays standing, it's going to be very close. And I don't know. I don't even know that it would be close. I just think Hardy would be the better striker. Like you said, though, 3 year layoff certainly concerning. I will say Hardy early in her career really didn't have a good camp. She's one of these fighters who just goes camp to camp, never really settled in. She pursued Dan Hardy. She kind of moved to UK to train with him. They're married now, so it's good. He's going to be in her corner in the O2 in front of fans that certainly love him. So hopefully they give her some of that support as well. But I don't know. I just think the size difference. Miller, while she's a terrible striker, she can eat like 20 shots, get completely battered, and just keep coming forward, find that body lock takedown, probably find a submission that way, make it look ugly, and yeah, it's not going to matter. I just think once the fight hits the match, he is the better submission grappler. Hardy not terrible on the mat, but not good enough probably to keep Miller off her for 15 minutes. So I think the line is absolutely ridiculous. I really don't want anyone to tie Miller in via parlay. But yeah, I do think Miller gets it done, mostly just because she's bigger and she could eat a ton of shots. But it's not like she's much younger than Hardy. I know a lot of people kind of consider this like a prospect versus vet. They're like a year apart or less than a year apart in age. But with the 3 year layoff, I mean, Hardy's saying she's done all the right things. She says she's been training well, says she feels the best she ever has. But I don't know. Do you believe her? I don't know if I do. Maybe I'll just throw like a couple bucks on her just at this ridiculous line. If you pay like $10 to win 50, why not? But Miller should get it done here. But do not say she's well rounded. She is not a good striker. Maybe she'll develop into that, and I hope she does, because she's an outstanding grappler, really tough girl, very aggressive, which is great to see as well. But her striking is not good, man. And I just don't think this is the matchup against a very small fighter in Hardy who's going to be able to take advantage of those flaws. So I think they're going to slow build Miller as they should. The striking should continue to improve. But if she gets stuck on the feet here, it could get ugly for her as a massive, massive favorite. So she's the pick. I think she gets it done probably by submission, but I wouldn't be shocked if she got kind of caught in a few striking exchanges on her way in.
Yeah, and she's beaten great strikers before. And if
Who?
you do, Brogan
She's never
Walker.
beat a good striker. Broken Walker is not.
Well,
I
if you're going to be taking that underdog shot on Hardy,
I
you
mean,
want to
Hardy
be able to
Hardy
take
beat Aliana
advantage.
Viana via
And,
submission. She hung on the feet with Andrea Lee. She has the much better resume. So like, if you want to play that game, Miller has not taken on good strikers, but she should still win. Like, I'm not going to hurt your feelings too much knocking your girl striking here. I think she still gets it done, but man, this line's ridiculous and her striking is terrible. Hopefully it improves.
probably Miller by sub is the
Yes,
look we should
yes,
all
I
be
agree.
taking there. All
Or
right,
just pass.
well, or take a pass on that one. But yep, UFC 286 should be a good one this weekend from the O2 Arena in London. As always, check out our full write-up on Saturday morning on Dine Sports, breaking down every fight on this card, giving our final official predictions for each. Nick, as always, was great breaking down the card with you. Looking forward to watching the fights this weekend. Thanks for joining me.
Of course, man. Yeah, it should be a fun card. Good luck, everyone. Keep an eye out for that article. And yeah, let's make some money once again this week.